Okay, we are done with the big four panels. Now, let's talk about buttons. You would notice by now that there are these three extra buttons next to the poses inside the pose panel. What are they exactly? Well, this one is load flipped. By clicking it, we basically flip the pose data. If you are familiar with the flip pose inside Blender, it does an almost identical job. So, for example, this is pose 2, and by using Blender utilities, we can just select the bones, copy the pose, and paste pose flipped. Now, voila! Sure, you can do it that way, and it's great, but with this button, we can do the same thing with only one click. Okay, the next one, this one is select. By clicking it, we basically select every bone that is registered inside the pose data next to it. So, for example, this is pose 3, and by clicking the select button next to it, we would select the bones registered inside pose 3. And okay, the next. So this button, update pose, is the last, and it's kind of important. As I've mentioned earlier, that poses are a growing thing. It's almost impossible that we could create a perfect pose in one single instant. And even if it is already perfect, we may want to change it a little bit to fit our rig better. So, for example, this is pose 4 and it looks great. But now, let's say that I want the left leg to be a little more to the left. How do we do it? To do that, we can move the left leg IK controller a little to the left, and then click the update pose button next to pose 4. Once we've clicked it, there's going to be a pop-up panel. In there, not only we can update the pose, but we can also change the label of the pose here in case we want to rename it too. Then, if everything looks great, we can check the yes, I want to override it checkbox, and there we go. The pose now has been changed. However, there's a reason why we put the checkbox there, because we have to be careful about which pose we're editing and updating. Remember that we have to click the update pose button next to the pose we'd like to fix. The reason for that is because if we click the update pose button that's not in the same row to the pose we'd like to fix, we would overwrite that pose instead. The most common mistake is updating the previous or the next pose on the list. So this is pose 1 and this is our rest pose. We could edit pose 1 and now we would like to update it. But instead of clicking the update pose button next to pose 1, we click the update pose button next to the rest pose. We check the yes, I want to override it checkbox, and there we go. We would now think that we have updated pose 1, but when we click it, we figured that it's still unedited. But when we click the rest pose, we figured that now we've overwritten the rest pose with the edited version of pose 1. In this case, I have updated the wrong pose data. So This is the one thing you too have to be careful about when you're editing and updating your own poses. Despite its borderline disastrous event, the update post functionality is actually a very useful tool, so we choose to keep it. Unlike the new post library that has already been integrated to the asset library, which, because of their cross blend files editing limitation, they choose to rip the edit functions off. If you have used the older version of Blender, you will remember that in the old pose library, we could always edit the poses. But now, the option is long gone. So, on the next part, we're gonna talk about this drop-down box, and it's gonna be great.